Major players from Jim Crockett Promotions squeezed their way onto a twin-engine Cessna 310 at Charlotte, North Carolina. They were due for a short flight over to Wilmington, North Carolina to make an evening shot at the sold-out Legion Stadium. Johnny Valentine, father of the legendary Greg the Ham Valentine, sat next to the pilot. Valentine was then the US champion and a top draw for JCP. He was scheduled to be the next challenger for Dory Funk Jr.'s heavyweight championship. With him were Bob Bruggers, Mr. Wrestling 2 Tim Woods, and the legendary Ric Flair, who was a rookie at the time. Also on the flight was David Crockett, the operations manager at JCP Promotions and oldest son of Jim Crockett Sr. The pilot was 28-year-old Vietnam veteran Joseph Michael Farkas. Up in the air, Johnny noticed that the engine was out of fuel and joked to his fellow wrestlers about it, knowing that the second engine would keep them in the air. What he didn't realize, however, was that the second engine was empty too. Farkas had miscalculated the massive weight of all the wrestlers and was unable to take off with it all, so the decision was made to dump the fuel from the tank, which in theory would lighten the load. Due to the weight it was required to move, however, the tiny plane burned up its fuel much faster than expected. When Farkas switched over to the second engine, he knew the mistake he had made. No sooner had Johnny Valentine made his joke, and the plane dropped out of the sky. Tim Woods placed a heavy briefcase under his bare feet, as his shoes were too far away to put on in such a short time. Valentine tried to keep the others calm, saying he felt good and that they were all going to be fine as they plummeted towards the ground. Farkas valiantly tried to bring the engine's speed down, and by stalling the plane he did so, but they were still traveling an estimated 100 miles an hour when they hit the ground. David Crockett's head smashed through the seat in front of him. He had been apprehensive about the flight, and now his nightmare was coming true. Ric Flair, the 26-year-old newcomer, broke his back in 2 places. Bob Bruggers also broke his back. Sadly, Johnny Valentine's career in the ring ended instantly. A bone fracture wedged itself into his spinal column, briefly paralyzing him and beginning a downward spiral of poor health for the last 30 years of his life. David Crockett's mouth had been torn open and nerves were left completely exposed in his mouth, leaving him unable to eat, drink, or talk for a period. The pilot, Joseph Michael Farkas, died after an agonizing 2-month battle in the hospital. Bruggers had a steel rod inserted into his spinal column and was said to be in good enough shape for a return to wrestling if he so chose, but ultimately he never stepped in the ring again. As for Ric Flair, he went on to eventually return to the ring after an arduous physical rehab period during which he had to learn how to bump again, which led to the distinctive Ric Flair style we all know and love today except for Shane Douglas. The Nature Boy ultimately became the biggest star of his era, but the crash was always looming over the lives of all who were involved.
Sunday Star News, a local North Carolina newspaper, published the day after the crash saying that the plane had been originally scheduled to land on runway 5, but the pilot told the tower he would attempt to land on an old runway 9. That wasn't used in a long time and the plane crashed half a mile from the runway. The pilot did not know what to do. He panicked, which led to
one of the world's best wrestlers. He has come to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling at great expense and time to Jim Crockett Promotions. Mr. Valentine has wrestled all over the world, and in Tokyo, Japan, he wrestled to a sellout crowd of over 25,000 people. Mr. Valentine, you have come to the Carolinas, and we, I think, have some of the best wrestlers in the world here.
Well, I believe you do. I've looked at the list of wrestlers that are in the Carolinas, and they're very impressive. I like to wrestle where they have good wrestlers and good wrestling. Big houses, big arenas. This is what I love because I like tough competition. I like a lot of money. This is what I'm interested in because I'm a professional. It's great to be in a new area where I've never been before because it's conquering new territories, conquering new worlds.
Well, Mr. Valentine, you conquered quite a few areas in wrestling.
Yes, it's just like Alexander the Great sat down and cried when he had
former Miami Dolphin football player. Hello, Bob. Welcome to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. I understand you've been on a bit of a tour around the world, right?
Yes, yes. I started wrestling about a year ago. I was trained in Minneapolis by Vern Gagne, who is probably one of the top wrestlers in the nation. And I spent some time in Florida, and I just got back from Japan because there's some top names like Johnny Valentine, Brute Bernard, and Rip Hawk. And they're all good wrestlers. I know I've seen them in action, and I'm looking forward to get a chance to wrestle these men.
Well, like you say, we have the finest wrestlers around. This Johnny Valentine and this Brute Bernard. Have you ever personally wrestled these fellas before?
No, I haven't. Like I said, I'm actually in my rookie year, and I think now after being in Japan and been around a little bit, I've got the confidence, and I'm looking forward to get an opportunity to work against top wrestlers like this.
Well, Bob, we know you do good, and we're going to keep our eye on you. Okay, Bob.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.